Your favorite macro investors are back.
What's good? What's good? Good morning. Good morning.
Man, dude, are we ever going to get out of this tariff war? Seems like one day Trump feels like Trump and Best don't know what they're doing. The next day it seems like it's all just fugazi, and we're just absolutely winging it every day. Really can't tell what's going on here, but
this is the best time to be alive ever.
It's entertaining nonetheless. I don't know if anyone, if other people in the market really feel that way, but man, it is a sight to watch, a sight to see.
I feel like I'm like the only one that thinks like the market isn't even really bad. I mean, like S&P is down like 15% from all-time high. Bitcoin's at $90,000. I don't know. Like, what's bad? Where's the bad news other than Ethereum?
The bad news is that everyone was in altcoins when the market took the market.
That's what it seems like, yeah. But I mean, if we get any type of decent trade deals out of any of these countries, and the worst pain that we paid was a 12% dip in the S&P 500, I think that that's like an across the board win. I mean, I don't know how you get off any better than that. A 10% dip. I mean, come on, let's get real here. People are just losing their minds. It's insane to see.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I don't know if you saw, but the Twitter mob, or the Twitter, I guess you would say, rage baiters, were out this morning complaining about how CloneX JPEGs went offline.
All right, there's outrage to be had here. There is outrage to be had here.
Yeah, the thing though is that they're basically subsiding or just not taking into account that the literal head of tech of Artifact said that they were moving to Arweave.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the rage baiters. Sometimes I think that crypto actually outsources more rage than the liberals do in America.
Oh, that's like easy. There's not anything that anyone can do to like please everyone in crypto. There's always like a huge segment of crypto that's upset every time. It's the attention economy.
Even when you're handing them free money.
It's not enough. We need more free money.
So this morning, Artifact, if you go, I think it's even still on OpenSea, that if you go to OpenSea, you'll see that on CloneX and a few of the other collections, I think Animus is the other one, you'll see that it says that the image it says this content has been restricted using Cloudflare's basic service in this manner. It's a violation of terms of service. So this usually pops up when people don't pay their IPFS bill. But then this guy, Samuel Cardillo, who is the head of tech at Artifact and Nike, he said that their collections are currently underway to be decentralized to Arweave, thanks to R-Drive and Promise. Oh, it's the people, I guess, who work at Arweave. For the help, said everything should be back online within a few hours. It says, for the curious people, here's what happened. Cloudflare Pro Plan is finished on April 30th, so they changed the infrastructure. And beginning of April, the decision to stay on Cloudflare Free was finally approved. And so the decentralized files basically weren't ready when they had decided that they were going to move to decentralized Artifact, right? Because if you remember, Nike basically said they're not building anymore in Artifact. They're now essentially historical NFTs, and they're going to exist in perpetuity as they do, man. But what a hard time to be an Artifact holder or to be a CloneX, man. Those things were selling for literally millions of dollars.
Has there ever been a good time to be an Artifact holder, though? Like, I mean,
maybe when they launched initially.
But people bought into it thinking like Nike was going to be a comfy hold. That was like the least thing from a comfy hold. There's a lot of gaslighting from the executives of that company. Just like a lot of drama in that community in general. It was really tough.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man, tough for them. The people, I guarantee you, I love the Bitcoin people, but they've been basically out in full force today saying see, this is why you got to do ordinals. This is why you have to, put everything on Bitcoin. But obviously, they always miss the other point. That's like, hey, your ownership is not on chain, right?
Right.
Just your JPEG's on chain, but you may never be able to prove that you own it if that's the case.
And they're just never in a good light. It's always like attacking the other communities. It's never like guiding the communities or offering a helping hand. It's always so aggressive with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it reminds me a lot of the historical NFT crowd, and why I actually now, anytime somebody starts shouting provenance, I just kind of look the other direction because it never works. It's never right. I think you have the right idea. It's never like, yes, provenance, come hang with us, we're cool. It's always like, see, provenance is better, or see, right, the data is better on chain than the trade-offs.
It's not
It's just
like
not a way to win people over.
Relationship at all. It's always like, I'm right. I've been right this whole time. You guys are wrong. We can really use like actual community building rather than just straight tribalism in this industry, no doubt.
Yeah. The Bitcoin community's been just absolutely consuming itself recently. I don't know if did you see this like drama between Good Things and I forget what his partner's name is. There was like a gigantic crash out that had happened.
Yeah, I followed a little bit, not all of it. I think that there's some good moments that I have to review because I saw that there were some hot takes. I gotta review. But I heard that there was like a Twitter space that was a pretty hard crash out, so I'll have to check that one out.
Yeah, so Udi actually came out, and I'll pull the post up here. I actually had woken up. I think this was this on Monday? Maybe this was like Monday, maybe it was Sunday. I'd woken up and there was like an ordinal space that had 500 people in it, and this was at like 7 in the morning or 6 in the morning Pacific time. And Leo was in there and a bunch of people. I was like, what the hell is going on here? And they had mentioned that they were up all night talking to Polymath, who had been apparently telling women to some not nice things, I guess, trying to put them in their place from a social role, apparently.
Where there's not even women in this industry. How do you get caught?
Yeah. There is a few. Tell them like to get their husbands and do stuff. Yeah, apparently, like they didn't record it, so it's really just kind of hearsay. But the whole idea here is that Good Things in Polymath, they launched a collection called Eternals. They classified it as a luxury art collection, which I think is the first mistake. Is if you're going to launch something luxury, I don't think you should actually call it luxury. That's going to turn people away or put kind of misplaced expectations. Then the collection didn't sell out. It actually didn't do too well. I think it only sold like 20% of it. They had messaged me. I actually met Good Things in Denver when he came to the party that Bunzi was DJing at. And he told me about the collection. It sounded really cool. And they had added me to the like inner circle or whatever. You just do like a post about it. I was like, yeah, man, I'm happy to support.
You were in the cabal, huh? Wow.
I was in the cabal. I mean, I was in the chat. They added me to the Telegram, to Twitter chat. I hate Twitter group DMs. I always leave them.
Turn them off. I just blow up your phone.
Dude, I get added to them consistently, and then I leave them, and then people message me, and they're like, "Why did you leave the chat?" And I'm just like, "Dude, I hate these."
I didn't have to be in that chat.
These like Twitter group DMs never have any value in it. It's always just a bunch of like circle jerking. There's never any actual alpha in it at all. And so when it came to mint day, it was like, yeah, you'll get 3 mints. And usually when you do these like kind of like marketing stuff or support, it's like you'll get like free mints or you'll get like a discount of some sort. Like even like with Bunzi and Skrilla, when they did their kind of like allow list, it was like a 10% discount, right? And so when it came to mint for these, for the inner circle, I think is what they called it, there was no discount. It was, you get to mint 3 of these for $400 each. While the public gets to mint 1 for the same price. There was like no difference. And I was like, this doesn't seem structured right. And ultimately, I think they ended up with like 200 mints out of 800 for $400. And I think the majority of them were actually the people in the inner circle minting. Didn't seem like the public market actually was very interested. So from what I see, it's like all the people who were added in the inner circle were the ones who were upset and they're the ones with the loudest voices because they basically got Fugazi to mint 3 of them. While the rest of the public, right? When it went to public mint, nobody in public minted any of these things.
There was only 200 minted of these things,
and they had like 50 to 100 people in this group chat. So
that
like I'm like
minted it.
It was like all the like like large accounts and stuff. But you know, I waited to public and I was like, okay, if like this mints out, I'll mint one like public market. But it literally just hit a fucking wall once it got to public mint. So people started, you know, attacking them, saying that, you know, this was a bad time to mint. Businessman was getting in on it, as he generally funds most things, and he was kind of right on it. But they then started kind of counterattacking everybody, and it looked like they were actually getting somewhat offended by just the pushback and kind of the criticism. It happens, though, you know, when you do something like this, and they've been in the space for 2 years, basically doing spaces every day. So you would think like that social capital credibility would have done pretty well. But I think it's just like bad timing, I think and also just the price, $400 per mint in a time where liquidity is like low, the market's crashing, and kind of like forcing upon people. Like people want to support, but it needs to be generally in like the right time. And so they had the space, and I guess Polymath went on and it became a shouting match for a bunch of hours, and he said some not nice things to a bunch of ladies in the space. And so now everyone is furious. And if you go to like their profiles, like if you go to Good Things' profile, you'd seen that he you can see that he had said some stuff to people, right? There was a Crash Out Spaces, you know.
Oh, it's actually called Crash Out. That's incredible.
And I guess Bugsy, this guy Bugsy, who just continually fuds things, was like part of it or something like that. Good Things is dope though. I have hung out with him, I have met him. I thought he was a good dude as well. They had built everything for 2 years, but you know, again, one of these situations where I don't know if it's like the market was it was bad timing with the market, or is overpriced, or you know, you call it luxury. There's all these small kind of variables to it. But man, Ordinal's community seems to continually consume itself in the tough times.
I feel like it's the same story, just a different blockchain. We're in this like paradox where we don't like outsiders to come in and launch collections, but then we also don't like insiders to come in and launch collections, because then that means that like some community members are making more money than others. So it's like we're in this standstill where actually nobody's allowed to launch a collection. Like, so therefore, like you can't have anything exciting happening on the blockchain because you just have so much tribalism and so much drama when someone tries to, quote unquote, you know, produce a project or make money.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's pretty tough to see. I think the mint price was obviously pretty high, but I mean, there's no doubt that Ordinals needs new collections, one way or the other. Like we need more excitement on the chain. We need new things for people to experiment with. I did see that I think it was Polymath. He like they launched the art collection, and then like a couple days later, he tweeted like it's not a like people thought that these art collections would take off when it's actually about to be like the technology or something like that. And he kind of like totally almost dissed his own kind of take and his own project like a couple days later. So it's just tough. I mean, you know, these trenches in the market lulls, when there's not a lot of liquidity, it's a very hostile place to be. So
what do you think's the right way? How do you go about handling it then? If let's say we launch a project and it doesn't completely mint out, you know, the same thing with the token sale. What's the proper way of handling that situation?
I mean, I don't think that a mint out or a sellout is like the best gauge of how a project might be successful. You know, I don't think that there's a problem with like minting out over time and taking time to build a project and just kind of being like a slow cook. I think that that's where that's like where most of the value lies. It reminds me a lot of like Emblem, where like we don't fluff our numbers, we don't like have flashy marketing or anything like that. We just like build real products, and eventually like you're going to build in the right direction, and you're going to provide so much value to the community that you're going to stick out, you know. And it's just about like surviving until you kind of hit that like flashpoint where it's undeniable, but you can't like buy your way into success, I think. And pretty much that's what all these sellout mints do, right? They just buy their own collection. I don't think that's a secret.
It's true. Yeah, maybe they saw Taproot Wizards just have such success with their mint out that they, thought, they could follow kind of in the tailwinds. Although I see Udi and them is just like a completely different beast, right? Because you got Udi, you have Eric, and you have all these other people kind of behind it. It's easy to get, Kobe and all these people to support Arthur Hayes when you've been literally in the same industry with them for 10 years. Much different than trying to pull from this new market of ordinals and runes that has very little, very, very little kind of liquidity.
Facts. And I mean, I saw that like they didn't even do the art themselves, and then they claimed that they did the art themselves or something like that. Just like random dramas. Like I mean, if you've been showing up every day for a year or 2 years, like people are going to know who you are, and they're going to know if you actually did the art or if you didn't do the art or if you're capable of doing the art and things like that. So just kind of like misleading and maybe gaslighting or just full on lying to your community about the process of the project seems to be a pretty big red flag for me.
Yeah, I completely agree. So Ordinal's going to continue to struggle. One of my actual predictions was for heading into 2025 was that there's going to be no new Ordinal collections inscribed in the top 5 in 2025. That seems to be
that's
proving pretty well. Yeah, that was like, I knew Taproot Wizards was coming, so it's like that'll probably be in the top 5, but it's the combination of just the community is so hostile to people, and also just the cost it is to the startup cost that it's required to inscribe these things. There's also with ordinals, there's no it reduces some gamification because there's no way to randomize them, right? There's no generative mint. It's like you have to inscribe all these things so people see what it looks like first, and then they get basically days or weeks to sit there and criticize the art, criticize the project, and it just like it the barrier is much higher. So as much as everyone says that ordinals is a better supreme NFT standard, I think there's other complications that come with it,
because it ruins the element of surprise, right? Because you can see them being inscribed on chain before they're actually released. So it kind of like ruins like the most exciting part of the entire process, which is the reveal. That's a good point.
Yeah. So
good luck to them. Good luck to Good Things and Polymath. I mean,
yeah, I hope they succeed, man. Like you want those type of people who've been around for a long time to have success and not just be kind of really ripped and torn down. Can they repair? I guess the big question then is, can they repair their reputation? And then can they get people to come in and buy, or fill out the rest of the collection? I mean, if you had, 25% of it, if you have 25% of the collection, they raised like 300 grand from that already. I think their mint out was like projected to be like over $1 million.
I mean, is that a success? Like you make 300,000 from a mint? That sounds like a deb. In the real world, that'd be a decent deb,
Yeah. It's what do you do then for the people who minted it, right? Do you just cut off the supply there, kind of call it? I probably would, honestly. I'd probably take like 100 for the treasury and then just cut the supply and call it a day, and then continue to build forward and go in that route.
It was the same thing on Ethereum. You build enough social capital, you launch a collection. It was the same thing on Solana. You build enough social capital, you launch a collection. But you never really do enough in the eyes of like fellow community members to like break through that threshold to get to the other side. Like, oh, you showed up on Twitter Spaces for a year straight. Okay, that entitles you to a $3 million mint. I mean, I get the pushback from both sides, but I mean, it shouldn't really be the people. It should be like the product. If you like the product, go ahead and mint it. If you don't, you can fade it. Free markets.
You can fade it. One company that does like the product is PayPal, Coinbase, working together in the stablecoin business. So this guy, Alex Chris, who is the CEO at PayPal, he said he's incredibly excited to work with Brian Armstrong and Coinbase to create more seamless ways for Coinbase users to access PayPal USD, which is their stablecoin. We're innovating in the future commerce and the latest technology from AI to blockchain to stablecoins to provide their customers with the most advanced ways to engage in a shopping experience. What's the take here on Coinbase expanding to PayPal, even though they own, a large majority stake in USDC? Does this then hurt their underlying business model, where they may hurt USDC Circle's business, on the hinges of them about to IPO, and now Coinbase is kind of looking at another stablecoin. It's almost like that meme where it's like the guy holding the girlfriend's head and he's like looking back, and now, right, he was holding the USDC and now they're looking at PYUSD.
I kind of took it the opposite way, that PayPal needed to integrate USDC and they would rather work through Coinbase than through Circle, but could be wrong there. I don't think anyone's using PYUSD. I think it's like more of a back-end technology for the company. So I mean, I just think that everyone needs USDC. There's been like a concerted effort to kind of block out USDT and get USDC and all these kind of prime brokers and US-based companies that can export dollars. So it felt like a move to just push USDC onto another platform from my perspective. I could be wrong.
Yeah, Coinbase enables its users to convert USD to PYUSD for free on their platforms. The initiative reduces fee costs together with enhancing PYUSD. Stable coins have rose 250% between 2023 and 20.
Have you ever heard of one person using PYUSD?
Literally not a single one. It kind of gets to this, like, kind of gets to the heart of this conversation, where you see now so many companies are pursuing stable coins. Do we end up in this kind of hyper tokenized world where there's just every bank has its own stable coin, every major fintech company has its own stable coin, every social network has its own stable coin? Or is it just the other, where Tether just basically consumes everything, and that ends up being the main use case?
It's a good question. I think Tether and USDC, they have such a lead, and they have it with just the single pair of USD. And obviously that'll expand to the euro, maybe the yuan. And they're in the best position to expand not only like regionally, but by currency as well. So their product offering can really grow. But I think that stablecoins are just such an attractive product that so many people are going to launch their own stablecoins. Like Bank of New York Mellon is going to have their own stablecoin. Bank of America is going to have their own stablecoin. JP Morgan's going to have their own stablecoin. And that just seems like they'd rather use their own in-house product rather than a competitor's product. And you have different trust assurances when you build your own also. So I think that there's going to be a lot of competition, but I think it's probably more of a power law, where Tether gets 80% of the market penetration. Maybe Circle and USDC gets 5 or 10, and then the rest is just jumbled between a bunch of different producers.
That makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like in the digital world, or like the Web2 world, where you have Robux, right? Is like the kind of the currency of that universe. I hear that GTA 6 is going to have like its own cryptocurrency kind of in there. It'd be kind of interesting if they did like Grand Theft Auto stablecoin. It'd be kind of interesting. And then you just have these all interchangeable. It's all wrapped USD, kind of all the way down.
Your chip metaphor was great.
Yeah, it was actually, I saw somebody had posted about wrapping assets, and I was like, it's this like cliche term that everyone always uses against AI, where it's like, oh, AI is just a ChatGPT wrapper, or the DeFi is just a ChatGPT wrapper, and you're like, well, AI is just an API wrapper, and you're like, well,
right.
APIs are just like it's just like a data wrapper, right? And it just like it literally just continues to go down the board.
It's all wrappers.
Yeah, I mean, OpenAI is purchasing Windsurf for $3 billion, or at least that's kind of the claim. And Windsurf is just a chat, right? It's just like an AI wrapper that they're paying for. But what a lot of people are starting to miss is that the higher you go up this tech stack, the users are the moat now. And that's what people are acquiring. Like, they don't care about what the tech stack is. Like, anyone can build these tech stacks. It's, can you build a culture and a community around your product that then the AI, that these AI companies are going to want. It was kind of this interesting conversation I was listening to. I forgot on what podcasts, but they're talking about AI products and applications, and this idea that in Web 2, and like, for example, Apple and Microsoft, there's app stores that are on their platform, but these companies have no intention in acquiring the apps, because these apps can't leave, right? They can't leave. They can't just go in and replace. You only have two, I guess. You have Windows and you have Apple. But in this like AI world, there's a new AI model that's superior every few weeks. There's right, it's like Gemini 2.5, and then you have Claude, and then you have OpenAI, and it's just like continually back and forth. And so if you're building an application on top of an AI, you can just simply just replace these AI models. And so for OpenAI to come in and acquire Windsurf, they're basically buying the users and ensuring that Windsurf only uses OpenAI models, and that they don't get replaced with a different model, which essentially then loses all of the users.
Yeah, and the wrapper argument, it's kind of like just in bad faith. Like, what is a website? It's like a wrapper on a browser, but the browser is not really investable. It's like all the value captures on the website. You know what I mean? And so even though we're leveraging for like different AI products, we're leveraging the compute from the LLMs, which have turned out to be more of like a public good, but all of the value capture is on the endpoint, is on that wrapper. So I think it's kind of, people have been looking for where the value capture would be for these AIs, and everyone thought that it would be the big companies, but those are kind of hard to invest in, right? OpenAI or Facebook or Gemini. And they have so much overhead to buy all these GPUs, to host them, to set up infrastructure costs. And now that there's just so much competition, whether it's open source or closed source within that category, that it's pushing all of the value capture down the supply chain towards like the wrapper base. And that's pretty obvious that that's where the value capture is going to be. So something like Agent Hustle, or even just like Windsurfer, obviously there's, they saw a ton of value capture there. So that's where the users are, and that's where the innovation is.
How about this article that CoinGecko put out? I believe this was yesterday. It says 1 in 7 are willing to trust AI with their entire crypto portfolio. It says, do people think AI agents can trade and invest better? Around 1 in 2 people think that AI agents will be better than humans at trading crypto and investing for the majority of the time. For short-term crypto trading, 26% of survey participants expected AI to often perform humans. 22% expected AI to always win. While for long-term investing, 24% said AI agents will often do better. So it's about a fourth of everyone is assuming that AI agents will always be better. And then it says that about 50% say AI agents will just be better at crypto trading and investing versus humans. Any of this surprising? And this was through 2,500 people, or the survey.
I feel like it sounds shocking, but it's actually probably pretty accurate, being that most random crypto traders that don't spend every day in this ridiculous industry are just like shooting from the hip. And like, there's like 1 in a million coins that they have to choose, right? There's millions of coins. They have to choose the right one. They have no idea where to get started. They don't know what metrics to look for. They have no idea kind of like how to point themselves in the right direction. So I think AIs might actually outperform a lot of those people that are just like shooting from a dartboard from 1 million coins on CoinMarketCap.
Yeah, everyone who uses Agent Hustle, man, they always come to this realization of, oh my God, he just recommends tokens and then it's up pretty much, right? Obviously, you have to figure out when to sell, but it just really cuts down on time savings. Like, instead of having to sit there through Pump Fund and click all the stuff, or through Photon, you can just talk to an AI and then give you better recommendations, which then makes you a better trader. Obviously, you still have to figure out the exit strategy, which we're working on. But from my experience so far, it seems like it's been infinitely better, at least from my perspective. Maybe some of the more advanced trading stuff, like with TA or I don't know, quantitative kind of analysis. But if they're putting the right token in front of you, like I don't think any of it even matters.
Right. And I mean, there's different types of trading. You know, are the coins that he's recommending now, are those like long-term holds? Like probably not. Those are like more short-term trades. And so kind of depending if you're trying to invest in just like a momentum strategy, it seems like AIs might be better. But if you're looking at actual what might be used over the long term, maybe they would be better as well. But that's kind of not what we're seeing be used for at the moment.
Yep. 36% of people are willing to let AI agent manage the majority of their crypto portfolio.
That's pretty fire, actually. That's like a huge number.
That's third of people this early. I mean, granted, 6 months from now, when DeFi AI is like much more advanced and has, you know, significantly higher penetration rate in the market, I suspect that that's only going to continue to grow here on out. So our thesis is proving to be right day by day. And yeah, it's just exciting that we get to build in this space. And slowly, every day, we get a few new users. We did hit an all-time high yesterday of 20 or almost 200 active users of Agent Hustle. I suspect a few months from now, right, that could be probably well into the thousands once more our liquidity comes back to the market.
Yeah, huge all-time high yesterday. I think we've had like 4 consecutive days of all-time highs and a lot of just days within that pretty simple range. And so it's all-time high daily users and all-time high session users. So a lot of use for Agent Hustle.
Have you been following this Alkane's meta protocol on Bitcoin as created by the oil?
Barely. I don't know. A lot of noise coming out of the Alkane's community. Pretty sus, if you ask me.
So it's created by Alex Taga. I got to meet him at ETH Denver last year in 2024. Oil was they created a wallet initially. It was initially seeded with $3 million in investment by Domo and a handful of other people. Hath actually is like a developer for Oil, and Lindsay was for a little bit too. They initially tried to create a competing wallet. It didn't really have any type of penetration. Experts kind of really consumed that. Then when Rune started, they kind of announced Alkanes literally like a year ago. But at the time it was called Proto Runes. And eventually it formed into this idea of Alkanes, which is some sort of smart contract platform. It's the technical jargon is a little bit beyond kind of my comprehension at points, if I'm gonna be completely honest here, but seems to be getting some traction. So Alkanes, they are kind of running the same exact playbook that all these other meta protocols on Bitcoin do, right? There's hype, then people start minting the tokens because it's essentially near free. So there's, 100, 1000x returns that can be generated and created. I think the most popular token is called Diesel, which I think is the network token in some capacity. The market cap is $30 million. The next one's called Methane at 10 million. And then it's basically just falls off a cliff with 500K on downwards. Let's see. So Diesel has in the last 20, let's see who has the highest amount of sales. So Cheeky B, I think this is like the meme coin that people were talking about, has 5,000 sales in the last 24 hours. Whereas things like Methane have 500. So if you click on it, it is pretty much a very similar experience trading that you get to Runes. The interface from this website, though, ID Club, is pretty cool. It does have some community support. I see some people like Jern and some others kind of covering it on how to use different types of terminals and tools. LIFO's covering it, who's like a pretty big builder in the ordinal space, and going through, and degens are having some fun. So half of the community is yelling at people and yelling at ordinal creators. The other half is just degenning on alkanes.
Man, I don't know if I have enough capacity for another meta protocol at the moment. You know, some of these need to just be like a clear improvement over every other meta protocol in order to get me kind of interested. I don't know if this is the one, but it just seems like we need to kind of work on coming to some sort of consensus on where a winner might be. And obviously that's not going to happen. It's not going to be easy, but having the 1,000 Bitcoin ecosystem enjoyers spread out over 6 different meta protocols doesn't seem like a winning strategy to me.
Yeah, they're trying to come for the throat. I still, you know, we have this belief. I still think Runes is the winner at the end of the day. I think that's already kind of chalked up, and people are building for Runes. Like, we already see this ecosystem where, you know, Odin Fund came out and said that they're soon going to be able, or have the ability, to deposit Runes into the platform. No one is using Odin anymore because they're just waiting on that. You have Arch, who just raised 13 million, right? Who is going live at the end of June for Saturn. That'll be natively traded Runes. It's tough. We've seen this bounce back and forth, right? Even Counterparty, that's the OG, has trouble with adoption because everyone is just confined to Runes, and it seems like the community is kind of just okay with waiting and to find whatever is the best place, because people want to support Casey. People have heavy bags and have invested over a year now into this protocol. It's going to be tough to pull, but I'll be interested to see what type of products that they can create that are different from what already exists. Airhead is like one of the top NFT collections, doing well. It was actually promoted by Arthur Hayes, who's the founder of BitMEX, who's been involved with this. Arthur's had it as his PFP for quite a while. And so it says Bitcoin's a network. Diesel is the token of the Bitcoin mainnet network. Diesel is the first smart contract asset on Bitcoin. The network subfractal of Bitcoin. They get a little bit deep into like the technical jargon, and to be honest, it kind of loses me at times, but there are some builders and it does look kind of interesting. I hope they have some success. I do like Alex. He's a pretty cool guy. We've talked with them for a while, and yeah, we'll see what happens here after the kind of initial novelty weighs off. The top collection, or the most transacted assets, called Methane, which has done $3 million in volume, 34 Bitcoin, since this is all-time high. Diesel's the second most transacted, that's done 400,000, and then butane seems to be number 3 at $200,000.
Yeah, it just kind of makes me wonder who's the market for this. I mean, if it's too technical for you, who spends every day in like a technical environment for years, it's kind of like who's going to actually understand it. There's maybe like 50 people outside of you that might have an idea, and I mean, to the rest of the ecosystem, it's just another place to launch, buy, and sell tokens. And I think that there's already enough services to kind of take care of that within the Bitcoin ecosystem. So there would have to be some pretty crazy features to get me to even be like remotely interested or think about kind of buying any of that, to be honest.
I saw Eric Wall coming out and throwing some FUD out on the protocol. He's saying that the miner sequenced WASM-based sovereign rollup on Bitcoin introduces MEV, which is what Casey initially is trying to prevent, which is why the Runes protocol is so simple. And then Eric goes on to say that that basically says that this protocol is an obscenity, and that it doesn't need to be built on L1, and that can be securely built with non-miner sequence L2s basically coming in and supporting Opcat. And then somebody says, how does this introduce MEV? And he says that this is, it gets into the technicals. He says that there's ways for transactions to be reordered for the miners to generate more value for themselves. He says ordinals can also create some MEV situations, but they're much more limited. So getting some FUD out here. People are upset. People are having fun. You know, you kind of just want people to just make some money at the end of the day, but I don't really know where else it's going to go.
Yeah, it feels like people haven't made some money in a little while. Honestly, the timeline feels one of the most dead that I've ever seen it. The industry seems one of the most dead that I've ever seen it in all of my years of crypto. What do you think?
Yeah, the sentiment. I mean, there's a lot of there's more spaces now than it was like 2 months ago for sure. But I even wake up and try to find things to talk about and tweet about. I just continue to just talk about hustle and AI because that's the most interesting thing to me. But even in that space, right? It's moving probably one of the faster moving markets in this current dynamic, and there's still it's like 5 projects that you follow, like 5 to 10, right?
Right.
That like are kind of even attempting to do anything interesting. And so, you know, this is how we get these situations where literally everybody's sitting and just talking about this artifact thing all day and beating it to death, even though they've literally come out and said that they're moving to Arweave. That's like the whole situation. But
that is funny that they even gave the heads up. But what about DeFi AI on Bitcoin? The lane is completely open. There's not a single DeFi AI agent on Bitcoin.
Yeah, there's not. Well, there was. So there was. What's his name? Toshi did the AI agent KOL, which was called Cypher Genesis.
He wasn't like a DeFi AI project.
Yeah, that one is dead now. I actually looked. I went to the account like a few days ago and hadn't been tweeted. It looked like he kind of turned it off.
Wow,
but
the ghost of Satoshi is no more.
The ghost of Satoshi. Yeah. Actually, this morning I got added to a chat where somebody's building a Bitcoin product and they want us to integrate Agent Hustle into it. So looks like some people are lurking. We've positioned ourselves pretty well by, you know, saying that we're going to be moving into that space here over the next few months once it's live. I think it's just it could radically change the industry. I'm surprised no one has done it. But you also just realize, like, as we build Agent Hustle, like how difficult this shit is. It's very complicated. It's very expensive too. Like I wouldn't be surprised if 6 months from now or a year from now, you see just like insane amount of funding going into DeFi AI projects. Like we already see, you know, we have 200 daily active users on the platform, and this shit costs, you know, well into the thousands per month, like approaching 10,000, right? For just 200 users. Obviously, we have probably the most performant AI that actually, you know, can do the most type of things. And we haven't really been able to optimize for efficiency and cost to bring the cost down, but we're getting on that path. Yesterday, Danielle from Hanon says that they have 10,000 users.
Which was interesting because we were just talking about how many users they might have that morning. We were kind of projecting how many users they might have, and we thought maybe they have like 1,000. And I think you said it was probably 10,000 cumulative, which I think is probably accurate.
Dude, if you had 10,000 active users on there, your bill's got to be like 10 grand a day.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Like insane. Cumulative. That's like Wayfinder said that they have 1 million users. Like you have 1 million users, you can go bankrupt in like literally.
They don't even do anything. I mean, what are they doing on Wayfinder? What are people doing on Wayfinder? Nothing.
I can't even get access to it.
Yeah, they're not on there. But I mean, Agent Hustle, you can, if anyone's used him for Solana transactions, you can totally see how simple plug and play he will be on Bitcoin between like Odin Fun or even just transacting through maybe Magic Eden or whatever it would be, just buying and selling some of these assets. It seems like a perfect match. His wallet infrastructure is really, really kind of top notch and far ahead of the curve. And so I wasn't sure if Bitcoin was the right market to launch on next. You were pretty convinced on that, and I think that you're actually pretty right. I think that it can totally kind of revolutionize the experience on Bitcoin more than anything else. And I think that users on Bitcoin will be like, wow, I can't believe that we've been missing this the whole time.
Yeah. You know, I hate to even say this, but it's like this with Ethereum. When you think about AI, there's a bunch of people building on it, but I don't see anyone actually using DeFi AI for Ethereum. Like it's, you know, it already has smart contracts. It already has all this tooling for it. Whenever I see people using DeFi products, it seems like it's mostly catered towards Solana. And
Facts.
so it's like, okay, I'm going to use AI on ETH for what? Like, it's like, what's there to do? Like to bridge things across? Like, I don't know. It just like doesn't seem like that big of a use case. Whereas on Bitcoin, it's like you need to be able to auto split things, you know, automated listings. I would like to, you know, monitor the mempool to see what kind of inscriptions are being, you know, identified to kind of see what the next trend is, what kind of runes are being etched and sit there, right? And it's like that's just so manually intensive, even worse than it is on Solana. Solana, it's like you're overloaded with just 50,000 tokens a day, where it's like on Bitcoin, it's just like 10-minute block times. It's like you have to literally sit there and wait, right? It's not even like sorting through tickers. It's like I have to wait every block to see what's etched and then go through the process. I'd rather just have an AI do that and just give me kind of the 4-on-1. And it also gives you more time to make decisions. On Bitcoin, it's like, okay, every 10 minutes, you're going to see what's the next kind of tranche of tokens that are being etched. And so then you actually have, you know, another 10 minutes to mint them. And that to me seems like something where AI can come in and automate that. And because there's actually more time to do things.
Right. And there's such a strong ideology of being your own bank on Bitcoin and custodying your own assets. And so Hustle might be like one of the first non-custodial DCA applications on chain on Bitcoin, right? Or just like setting limit orders, literal on chain on Bitcoin through a non-custodial application. Like that doesn't exist, and obviously that's a huge market within itself. So even just the simplest in its simplest form, the kind of opportunities and applications that he has are like don't even exist yet, and far and wide better than anything that exists on the market. So I think that you're pretty on point there.
Setting a DCA for runes would be pretty cool, especially because it's all like bricked out anyways. And figure out strategies. I bet you there's probably a handful of trading strategies for runes that hasn't even been acted upon yet. And you can have an AI literally talk through to figure out what's the most optimal way to trade this stuff. Because I look at it and I'm just like, okay, the best thing you could do right now is arbitrage, because you have these like big lots on runes. And it's generally the big lots is either one of two things. Generally whales who are trying to push the price down to get in lower, or it's people who are just lazy and they don't want to sit there and have to, you know, batch the stuff up and list it in like a ladder. So you can literally, and what people do is they'll buy the big one and then they'll split it up and then they'll make the, whatever it is, the 10 or 20% kind of spread on whatever the convenience fee was. But with AI, you can figure out probably where there's other opportunities like that exist that people are probably continuing to do over and over. And yeah, I'm excited for that day when it does happen.
And something that I think is pretty easy for us to build that would really kind of change the whole industry. I don't know if it'll be welcomed, but I think it'll be a big product is just a mempool sniper. So right now, mempool snipers are in the hands of kind of like the best technologists or the best botters on Bitcoin. But what happens when that's in the hands of everybody? Is that good or bad? I don't know, but I'm sure it'll be used a lot. And so I think you'll see a lot of mempool sniping in, with that. But I think that it's needed to put competition within that kind of space. I think it makes it much more efficient.
I think for us as well, we have all the relationships with the ordinal ecosystem, and there's like maybe 10 services that have Bitcoin ecosystem APIs that are related. So there's only a handful of places where you can go to get this data that's already built, unless you're going to customly build all of it. So we can work much closer with a, you know, like a Maestro or a Best in Slot or a Unisat or a Genie Data or a Magisat or a Rune Blaster, right? To kind of figure it out. And these type of people need the exposure, and they need people using their products and services. So it can be very complementary, working together with some of these people. I would say Rune Blaster seems to probably have the most tooling. But there's also some other kind of smaller ones. And once we actually do make that impact, the ordinal ecosystem is so small. It's like what, 5,000 people, maybe 10,000 at most, like who are using it monthly, at least once a month, in some capacity. You make an impact or you do something new and innovative, everyone is going to come rushing to that product. Everyone's like, oh my God, we've been saved. It would be cool to actually add it to Counterparty as well. Would be interesting.
Yeah, but I think that you're right. There's like so much of a product differentiator through Bitcoin that isn't really available. I don't think anyone's excited about Ethereum right now. Anyways, I don't know if we would get a lot of usage, but you had something like that on Bitcoin. I think that you're right. The community is going to rally and kind of get behind you.
When I think of like AI on Ethereum, the first thing that comes to mind is prediction markets. That's poly market. Seems like, I don't know why. I don't know if that's the right way, but every DeFi AI project that goes to Ethereum, they just focus on bridging and swapping. And I'm like, I don't need an AI to really do that. I could literally just do it already. Right? Like, I don't actually ever bridge assets. I just multi-chain swap to the new chain. Like, to me, that's much faster than bridging. Like 100%. Way faster. I mean, I guess if you're like doing a very large amount, you don't want to pay the, 0.3% swap fee or whatever. Like, and you'd rather just bridge and pay much less. Like, that kind of makes sense. But unless if you're moving anything less than $10,000 or $50,000 over, like, just swapping it is much easier and faster. So then I think, okay, prediction markets are pretty cool. I know Polymarket has their own AI companion that doesn't really get talked about a lot. And then I guess you would use it to farm ecosystems, I guess, right? Which is something we've talked about. That gets a little bit more advanced into kind of this like automation, like pseudo AGI kind of product where it has to make contextual based decisions, right? Because farming can be straightforward if you have the rule set. There's like these other types of variables that are introduced that sometimes needs a human kind of decision. But okay, we integrate, Polymarket and add it, and then he does that. Like, to me, I'm like, job's done, I guess, at that point.
Job's finished. Yeah, I guess so.
So, we'll wrap it up today. This is a cool talk. I'm excited for Bitcoin when it comes. The devs are talking about, I don't know if everyone even listens this far, an AI XBT integration. So I've been in contact with that team. That's going to be a cool terminal to have.
No way.
Branded, yeah.
Is that a leak? I didn't even see that. When did you start that?
We started like a week or two ago. So AI XBT has this, like, they wanted some testers for their API services that they're launching. And so we've been talking with them, and they just gave us access to their AI. And so we're going to integrate it into the kind of alpha or information toolkit. And then as well as I think we're going to build its own kind of mini app terminal. So, and then it'll be some co-branded kind of opportunity.
Hell yeah.
Give it to the premium.
Move it, baby. Agent Hustle. If you haven't tried Agent Hustle, just try.
Save yourself.
All right.
Save yourself before it's too late and you get caught with your pants down. Appreciate everyone who joined us. Good weekend. Use Agent Hustle. Use Emblem Vault. Lots of stuff coming. Until then, have a fun, safe weekend, and we'll see you guys next week.
Later.